Hello everyone, welcome to this video on the syllabus feature in Auralia and Musician. Before we get started, let me tell you what we mean by syllabus. So a syllabus is our term for a curated collection of practice exercises. So we've put together these different groups of sets for different groups of students, and within each you will find these customized, very carefully structured learning pathways to take your students from point A to point B. And they are accessible to the students through our practice page and also through our set of pre-built tests that you can copy and assign to your students. But let's go over to the website and take a look at the practice page, which is really the best way to get an introduction to the syllabus. All right, so here we are on auralia.cloud. This is the default place that your students will go to access any practice. If you don't already know, Auralia is our oral theory section and Musician is written theory. So over here on Auralia, you can get a good sense for the amount of levels that are available to the students, or the amount of topics. In the complete syllabus, we have everything, and most likely for your students, you're going to give them one of our smaller, more limited syllabi. But in here, you can get a good sense of the variation between the different syllabi. So if we click on interval recognition, you'll see that they're just organized by levels, and that there are 19 of them. So really it runs the whole gamut from absolutely nothing to everything that you could possibly need to know about recognizing intervals. But then if we go over to, say, the AP Music Theory syllabus and click on interval recognition, you'll see that it's really only units 1 and 2 and then a couple of exam levels. So a more limited view of what the students get, and also structured by units that are set to line with those AP Music Theory guidelines. Again, another variation in Theory and Oral 1, much more limited levels or much more limited topics, and then the levels are again organized by units but structured a little bit differently. Okay, so, and again, all of these are customizable. So any of the syllabi you can make a copy of and edit and change what's being assigned to your students and limit their view or add to their view, whatever you want. We're going to look at that a little bit later on. So for now, let's just take a look a little bit more at how these syllabi work together between Auralia and Musician. So again, back to intervals. I'm going through that a lot. If you look at the oral, you can hear in the first unit, you'll practice hearing whole steps and half steps ascending and then descending. And then if we go over to Musician and go to intervals, they will also get practice in unit 1, writing and reading the intervals of whole steps and half steps and treble and bass clef. Okay. And one more thing, within each topic, there are lessons that the students can click on and work through. There's all kinds of description stuff, and there's a whole bunch of different levels that they can work through to get more information. And you could also lecture from those in class if you wanted to. Okay, very good. So one more thing on the general introduction. Let's go over to the admin page and we'll talk about how to get these to your classes. So we'll select admin and then people. And here is our default view. There's just me in this service right now. So I will select the eyeball, which is going to let me see what is in the default class. And you'll see a whole bunch of different syllabi are selected here. I kind of chose the whole gamut to show to you, similar to what the default is when you get it. So we'll select edit to make some changes. Lower the menu here, and you can see there's all kinds of stuff. So we're going to take this box right here in the upper right, select it. That will select everything, and then I'm going to select it again to deselect everything, and I'm going to go through and choose some syllabi. So for a general intro undergraduate class, I'm going to pick the Theory and Oral 1. And then let's say I want to give them some pop music and some jazz experience. We'll select those as well. And then I always like to give the complete syllabus as an extra for my students that are really overachievers or maybe want to explore some different things. And that gives them an extra way that they can go in on their own and do some practice. And finally, we need to select a primary syllabus. So I'm going to click on here and then select the theory and oral one, or whatever you want to give to your students as the default. Okay, so now because I have changed that for the default class, any student that is enrolled in that class will see what I see. So because I am assigned to that class, what I see is what anybody else in that class will also see in the system. Okay, so let's save. And let's take a look at how that works out. So I went back to Auralia, and you can now see that the default view is theory and oral 1, and our drop down gives us only 4 syllabi. So it's a much more limited view, controlled, a little bit less overwhelming for the students, and it'll be the same under musician. Okay, so before you go on, I would invite you to go over to your system and try out some levels, try out some lessons, see how it all works, and have a play with it, and then come on back. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can customize the syllabi, and we're going to do that by going over to the desktop application. So if you are logged into auralia.cloud, you can select the admin page and then scroll down. And from here, you can launch the applications. If you need to, you can download the installation files there. So let's go into Auralia. All right, so I'm going to do everything in Auralia, but just know that all of the commands work the same in Musician as well. So let's start off by going to the syllabus page, and you'll see all the different syllabi here. There's a complete, you might have a different view depending on how your service was set up, but I'm going to start with the theory and oral 1. All right, first things first, this is a lot of stuff, right? So let's limit our view. And to do that, I am going to select this Open Topics menu and select Only Show Topics that have levels for the chosen syllabus. Much less stuff, much less overwhelm, and this is just stuff that is relevant to this syllabus. So first things first, this is all hardwired in here. So if you try to make an edit, you're not going to be able to. So to edit anything and to customize it, you're going to make a copy. Then once you make a copy, you can do whatever you want. So hit the rectangles for duplicate and select yes. And it's going to give you a little message saying that it's not assigned to any classes. We'll do that once we're done. So hit OK. Okay, so I'm going to give it a name, MUS 101, and I'm actually going to start this with a number 1. That is going to separate it out. You'll see in a minute it will jump up to the top of the list. All of my custom stuff, I always start with a number just so it's visually separated for me. It makes it much easier to find. And then if you want to, you can update the description for Dr. Alford's Theory 1 class. Okay, there we go. And you can select your rhythm terminology here. You can also look at the settings. Let's take a look at that real quick. So the gear tool for syllabus settings, we'll start with drill options. Here you can select your rhythm terminology, your solfege options, some playback and metronome settings, your part writing settings. If you want to build your own custom rule set for 4-part writing, you can do that there. And all kinds of different stuff. I invite you to play around with that as you like. Close that, and a couple more things. Chord options. You'll want to set your cadential 6/4 option here. I like the 5/6/4. You do whatever works for you. The jazz symbols, you can select different options there depending on how you teach your jazz chords. And one more thing, B-mean options. If you want to change up your B-mean options, you can do that there. So you want to just use the 2-2-2-2 for 4/4. You can change that. Great. Okay, so let's look at how you can edit what is given to the students in each topic. We'll start with chord recognition. You'll see the default here has 3 levels: triads, inversions, and sevenths. You may want to add some more scaffolding or change the settings of how it's presented to the students. So first, what do all these different things mean? If you want to add a level, you'll hit the plus. If you want to get rid of a level, hit the minus. I'm going to leave it as is since there's only 3. You can copy something if you want to copy and make one change. We'll look at that in a minute. or you can hit the pencil to just see what's contained in it, or if you want to make some changes, you do that here. Okay, so we'll hit the pencil and select edit level. So this is basically the programming for how the program is going to select what it's showing to the students and the questions it's asking. So I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to give them the chord, the arpeggio, and the chord. And then there's 4 available chords. I like that. I'll leave that as is. It's going to use chords pulling from tonalities and keys. I'm going to limit it just a little bit, then I'll show you why in a second. So for this one, I'm going to have them do the chords on the piano keyboard. So they're going to have to spell it out on the piano keyboard before they identify them. We'll see how that works, okay? So the major and the minor doesn't matter so much as it's going to just kind of give you more chords to be asked. Okay, finally, I'm going to select this display other entry options for the students. Okay, so let's close that and see how it works. So we will select the preview button. You can see on the website it's a little bit more clear, but here you can see they'll now have to pick out, basically spell the chord that they heard, and they get the answer. Okay, good. So that's a nice little option for how that works. Now let's see. I changed that, so I want to change the name, Triads Keyboard, and then I'll update the description. And then let's make a copy so I can put it back to the multiple choice option. Okay, so duplicate level, and I'm going to move that up. You're going to use these arrows here to move things into place, and I'm going to update the title. I'm actually going to make this B and A, just so things don't get too out of whack. And I'm going to update the name and title again. And one more thing, let's go into edit the level. And we are going to really just have them answer by multiple choice. Okay, and we'll give them a couple more options, because now that they're just hearing it, we can give it, this will basically give the system more chords to generate for them to hear. Okay, so let's close that out and give it a little preview to make sure everything works right. There we go. Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, continue and close. Okay, so the parameters for the different topics are going to be slightly different when you jump into them, but all of the commands work the same. So add, minus, copy, edit. That's the same. And just poke around, have a play with it, and see the different kinds of things that you can change, and maybe add some scaffolding in to create your own wonderfully customized syllabus. Finally, one cool thing that you can do is, let's say you want to pull some stuff out from one syllabus and assign it to another. Say you want to add a little bit of pop music into your class. So I'm going to go in here, and let's say I want to have them do some cadence identification. So these are YouTube videos. It'll give them another way to practice hearing those PACs, IACs, and half cadences. So I'm going to hit the rectangles to copy and select copy to syllabus. And it's going to choose my custom syllabus as the default and hit copy. Great. Now I'm going to go back over to my custom syllabus, which you can see is now at the top under complete syllabus because of the number 1, and go to cadences. And if you want, you would basically just update this to unit 1102 pop music cadences. Okay. And do whatever you want there for editing this. So it's a nice little way where you can add in a little bit of diversity in what you're requiring your students to practice hearing. Okay, great. So next we're going to look at how to create a syllabus from scratch, and we'll look at some more of the features there as well. So to create one from scratch, you're going to come over here to the panel on the left and select the plus, new syllabus, and again hit OK. All right, and let's give it a title. We're going to call this, we'll make this MUS 102. Why not? It doesn't really make any sense, but that's okay. So we've got another syllabus made. All the settings I'm going to leave the same. You can double check them here. We're all good. Actually, let's change the solfege options to my lovely movable dough that I love. Everything else should be good to go. And you can double check everything as you go. So I'm going to start out by, you'll notice that everything is selected, and then that's going to change once we add a level. So I'm going to select the interval recognition and build some interval recognition levels. So we can hit plus, and I'm going to make this, how about unit 1? And I'm going to do the pentachord. Give it a description. Okay, and then this is going to all be in generated content. I'll talk about what that means in a minute. And then hit the pencil to assign some stuff to it. So you'll see here a different format than what we saw before with the chords. I'm going to just give them the 4 chords found in the major pentachord, just ascending. If you want, you could do it descending. These are going to be played melodically, and then the harmonic is separate. You can also have them answer by, again, entering on the piano keyboard, a guitar fretboard, solfege ladder, external MIDI controller if available. And you can have it, if you want to be really simple, you can have it all start on C. So that would be for your very basic beginners. Okay, so, and it's actually a nice way to start them off, give them a little win at the beginning. Okay, so we'll close that out. And how about, we'll add a description. Starting pitch C. Now, if I want to adjust that, how about we do unit 1A, and then I'm going to make a copy. And this is how I like to build them, just one thing at a time, changing one thing, adding a little bit, and then going to the next level. And then we'll edit. And just change that starting to random. Now, if I want to bounce back and forth, I can come down here to current level, and you can see, you can select. That comes in handy if you go back and you're like, oh, I want to change one thing, and you've already built a bunch of levels. It's really easy to switch around. Okay, good. So now we have a couple levels, and you notice in our topics, everything's gone away, which is great, but for our purposes, we actually want to show everything because we want to be adding a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to go back to the menu, deselect the only show topics, and we've got some stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the melodic dictation feature. I'm going to add 2 levels for you. One is going to be using generated content, and the other is going to be using our library questions. So you're basically going to be building a question bank within here, but that's in a minute. First, let's build some generated content. So again, select the plus for a new level. We'll make this unit 1. Again, pentachord. Give it a description. We'll just do the major pentachord. Okay, and we'll edit to set some parameters. So we're going to start with the tonic chord. We'll give them treble and bass, display the first notes, give them a few key signatures, not too many. You can opt to show the key signature or not. If you're doing some Karpinski stuff, you might want to leave that out. And then a couple other panels for us to look at. So notes, we're just going to do major. Select the notes for the pentachord, and I'm going to set the maximum interval to 1/3, so it's going to keep it pretty simple. And then scale degree groups, this is actually pretty important. You only want to select one. Just select the maximum scale degrees that you want. Okay, don't go crazy and select a bunch of options. For the best possible system generation, just select the maximum width that you want. Then let's sort to the rhythm. We'll make it 2 measures, keep it in 4/4, and we're going to use the number 2 setting, which is half notes, quarter notes, and dotted half notes. And then you can change the tempo also if you want. Make it kind of easy for them. So there you can add in compound time too if you want. Okay, good. So now we have a nice little generated level. Again, you can hit the preview button if you want to test it out. Next, let's add a library level. And I'm going to make this Unit 2 because it's going to be a little bit harder. Library questions. Okay, now a couple things about that. So to get the library questions, we're going to take the slider down here and we're going to drag it all the way to the right. And that's going to let you pull questions out of our pre-built questions in the library that can be used in the syllabus, or they can also be used in tests as well. You can also write your own, but that's for another video. You can play around with it if you want. Okay, you can also have it be somewhere in between. So let's go in here, and again, we're going to select the pencil, but now we're going to select library questions. Okay, so now you're going to have, they're fixed exercises. You can use YouTube videos. They use scores, notation files, all kinds of stuff. Again, you can build your own. It's really kind of nerdy and fun to play around with. I like it a lot, but do what you need to do. So let's search for some questions to add. So we're going to search for melodic dictation. And then you can use a comma to separate out your parameters. And I'm going to look for Maria von Paradis. You can just type in Maria. There's only 2. We are working on always adding more women composers. So now we've got these selections, and I'm going to pull this one right here, which you can tell by the time code. If there's a timestamp, that means that it is a real recording. If there's a number of bars, that means that it's a MIDI example. And if you want to preview it, let's take a listen. Okay, very good. I like it. Let's go ahead and grab the one underneath it. So all I did there, clicked on this, I hit Shift on my keyboard, clicked the bottom one, and now I'm going to hit this right facing arrow, and it's going to move both of those over. Okay, let's look for some more. So we do recommend, if you're giving this to students for practice and not for a test, you want to have at least 15 questions. To give them enough generated content so they're not just getting the same questions over and over again. So let's look for some more questions. So melodic dictation, we're going to look for diatonic, monophonic, and major. Okay, so you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff here. We could go through and preview them. Different times. Let's look for things that are around the same amount of time. And obviously you would want to preview some of these to make sure that they're not too hard for your students or too easy. Okay. You could even add in some of these MIDI ones if you want. So we're just going through, picking a bunch. You can see there's a different assortment of instruments. Some of these are, if there's nothing listed, it's probably piano. But then there's also some on different instruments listed. So I'm going to get some of these shorter ones in here too. Okay, very good. So now you've got a nice little set, and we're going to close that out. Okay, so last thing, you need to get this to your students. So you can do it on the website like we looked at earlier, but you can also go over here to people and then down here to select different syllabi. Okay, and if we go over to the practice page, they should show up. Yep, There they are, in addition to all the other wonderful things. So you can see, I mean, that one we didn't build very much, but it's in there. Okay, finally, one last tip. Let's go over to reports. If you want to keep a record of what's in the different syllabi, sort of apart from the software, you want to have it for your files or just to pull it up to look at, you can go over to reports and then scroll down to curriculum, syllabus structure and levels, and you can run a report of what's in different ones. If you want to know what's in the theory and oral one, you can hit that, hit view report. This is also helpful so you don't have to like click in each one to see what's in each one. You can just run the report to get the full view of how it's all structured. Okay, so now let's zoom in a little bit. Make it bigger, and you can see now all the different things that are in each topic, and there's lots of pages that you can click through. You can save it as a PDF, you could print it, you can also save it to a CSV. All right, great. So now you are ready to go create your own custom syllabus and also your own custom courses and tests that are completely mapped onto your own curriculum. I invite you to play around, see what we have that works for you so you don't have to do extra work, but then when there's something that you want, you're now empowered to go make it your own. All right, I hope that all of that was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Click that subscribe button to get notified every time we release a new tutorial video. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye.